Okay. So we get to our kind of central climactic moment here, which really runs all the way from when he heard, I think, all the way down to what was being set right, this sort of central crux of the poem that hinges over both of the stanzas. It says, when he heard the wolf whine of the pair of words there, the wolf whine. And it's, I think, the alliteration is an element of the sound that's particularly striking in that lexical choice, but also the words themselves are unusual, partly because we don't normally think of wolves as whining. We think of them as howling. And so we have this sense, perhaps, of a powerful animal in pain in the Lexis that's also emphasized by the alliteration. And that obviously connects to, I think, the wounded, perhaps, pride and masculinity of the father, and that this experience is functioning almost as a conduit for that repressed anger. What you have is whine and siren creating this assonantal quality in the lines that I think obviously is supposed to give us a sense of the actual sound of the siren itself. And also almost internal rhyme. There's something so powerful about that sound that it creates a sense of, I think, internal rhyme. He woke my mother and she pushed and shoved us all into waking. So we have, in the same line as this sort of figurative equivalent with the wolf, we have this description. It's not necessarily unusual lexical choice. So perhaps we won't call it lexical choice, but this element of the narrative, he woke my mother, that she is active, importantly. It's not him. She is the one that actively goes and greets the children. And this is why I think we get this truncated line here, and she pushed and shoved. We have these two dramatic verbs here associated with the mother in this truncated line that emphasizes her, what we call her agency. She is the one that is engaging with the children. She is the one that is facilitating this entire experience, and he simply passively wakes her and expects her to do this. And she shoved us all into waking. Now again, there's an unusual verb choice here. Because what we're really thinking of here is a sort of abstract noun. She shoved us all into awareness. She shoved us all into consciousness. She shoved us all into waking. I think is the suggestion here that the mother is creating the event rather than the father. And that event is some kind of waking, some kind of development of the consciousness of their understanding of their family relationships. This girl, this child, speaking voice particularly. Once roused, we longed for burnt wood and a smell of flames high into the pines. And this is where I think we have a really powerful example of olfactory imagery. We longed for burnt wood and a smell of flames high into the pines. That is at times almost synesthetic in its quality here. The smell of flames. Flames don't actually have a smell. It's the things that they burn that do. That synesthetic imagery and olfactory imagery, again, gives us the sense in which I think the children have absorbed the father's desire for destruction. It's high into the pines, and then my old man liked driving to rich neighborhoods best, swearing in a good mood as he followed fire engines that snaked like dragons. I think here, my old man liked driving to rich neighborhoods best gives us the first example, I think, of his class resentment. There's a sense of class resentment in this anecdote. But there, again, we're not being told that, we're simply being given the anecdote itself. And then swearing in a good mood is another kind of almost oxymoronic language here, because we disassociate swearing with happiness. And so what we therefore get is a picture of the father's, what I would call, from Freudian terminology, his Schadenfreude, his taking pleasure in the suffering of others. As he followed fire engines that snaked like dragons and split the silent streets. So there's a huge alliterative component here. Followed fire engines that snaked like dragons and split the silent streets. We have that sibilant sound that is obviously supposed to create this sinister quality that is associated with dragons. And again, there's nothing particularly unusual about that, but it is when we think about what this figurative language is describing. These are describing the fire engines, the things that are designed to prevent this destruction and this fire that he's seeing unfold. And so what we're getting then is this warped vision through this simile, that actually what is going on here is everything trying to destroy these wealthy neighborhoods. It's trying to create this destruction. The simile and the sinister sibilance in those lines gives us that impression. And then this very final simple sentence, I think, gives us, the tension between the childlike understanding of this. This is the child's understanding, mirrored, I think, in the simple declarative sentence. And the conclusion of this stanza, that it's a festival, a carnival, that there's something wonderfully happy to be seen in this particular moment in time. And that, of course, is not the case. We're taking great pleasure out of the danger and the suffering of others. And if anyone has seen or witnessed this, everyone will know that this is a particularly traumatic thing to experience. So, we shift into the next stanza with the sort of climax of the childlike understanding here. If there was a Cadillac or any car in a curved driveway, my father smiled a smile from a secret brittle heart. And so, what you have there, I think the Cadillac, functions almost metonymically here for wealth. The Cadillac is a metonym for wealth. And the curved driveway too, big driveways. My father smiled a smile from a secret brittle heart. And so here, these adjectives and this imagery here, the secret brittle heart, shows us again, I think, the fragility of the man, and that perhaps actually also that he's lost the capacity for feeling, which sheds some light on why the relationship with the child is so distant. I think you could also then make a point about the dentals in this, secret and brittle, giving a sense of that fragility, and then also making sense of the difficulty that this man has in communicating perhaps intense emotional feeling or love. His face lit up in the heat given off by destruction, like something was being made or was being set right. And so here again, his face lighting up contrasts, I think, this image contrasts with the brittle heart, and it's giving him a sense of vitality. He's coming alive with pleasure in the heat given off by destruction. He's being almost animated by this destructive energy. Like something was being made. And again, there's something paradoxical about that simile. It's energy by destruction, like something being made. The simile itself is a paradox and shows us his warped thinking. That he sees the act of destruction as a form of kind of creativity, of something productive. Something was being set right. And I think here, the Lexis is deliberately vague, I think, to give us a sense of the intangible quality of his anger. the intangible quality of his anger is precisely what he is unable to make sense of here, and is what is ultimately leading him down this destructive understanding and pleasure in the destruction of others.